everyone. I am so excited this morning because I am speaking with author Lindsey Palmer, and we are talking about her book that just came out February 26th, and she has a copy of it right in front of her. She's going to hold it up, otherwise engaged. Hold it a little bit higher so we can see.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. I love this cover so much. It's like, it
Thank you.
speaks volumes about this book. Like,
I love the cover too. It's fun, huh?
it really is. This is your third book, and this is the first one of yours that I've read, but it was so much fun. I love a fun book. Like, I read a lot of like thrillers and stuff. So when I come to a book like this, it's just about relationships,
hmm
and your sense of humor just came through the whole thing.
Thank
Like,
you.
but I'm gonna let you give the blurb because I don't want to talk too much. Like, I don't want to say too much, and I don't want to have any giveaways. So,
Okay. All right.
oh,
Sure.
go ahead.
So I'll share the premise. So
Okay.
our narrator, the protagonist, is Molly, and she is in a relationship with Gabe. They've been together a couple years, and pretty early on in the book, this isn't giving much away. They get engaged, considering the title. And they're pretty happy and everything's going well. And Molly has always known that Gabe is writing a novel. And he finishes the novel and he tells her, and he's very excited. And she starts to read it. She has no idea what it's about. And she quickly realizes, along with us, the readers, that it's a thinly veiled retelling of his relationship with his ex-girlfriend, Talia. And he doesn't even really change her name much in his novel. She's named Dahlia. And so throughout the book, we get little snippets of this novel of Gabe's that Molly is reading, and we get to see her reactions. And this book quickly becomes a national sensation. It's everybody's reading it, and then Talia, Gabe's ex, comes back out of the woodworks to sort of capitalize on the success. And Molly quickly starts to get pretty agitated by the situation, and things sort of spiral downward from there. So that's the premise.
What a great story. Like, I love the way you told the story in the story because it was Russell and Dahlia. And then,
Yeah.
like, and I don't know, because it was the way I read it, especially, I don't know what it looks like in print, but the way I read it in Kindle is like, it was so seamless. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect. It wasn't like, oh, here's the book. Oh, here's the, it was like, it was a part of the story. And then you're experiencing Russell like in the book for Dahlia, and then like I was blown
Yeah.
away by the concept. And go ahead.
Yeah, well, I really wanted to play with this idea of kind of the interaction between fact and fiction and the interaction between past and present. So in this case, they all sort of come together. And, I've thought a lot about, as an author who writes sometimes from my real life, what is that like for people I know to be reading, oh, this is kind of a different version of what actually happened, and how was it like for them? And I sort of wanted to play with that in the most high stakes way I could imagine, which is, reading about your fiance and his relationship with his ex. And also Talia is so different from Molly. They could not be more different. And so that experience too of seeing like, how come he ended up with me? And she starts to really question things as she reads about this totally different type of woman who her fiance is very interested in.
Yeah, and I was thinking about when you're in a relationship with someone, and of course you tell stories about your exes, right?
hmm
But then she was like reading, so it wasn't just him saying, "Oh," and then this. She's reading it, going, "Okay, which part? It's like, which part happened? Which part?" Because there were a lot of good parts in that book, so it was like,
Right. And
well,
usually when you're hearing stories maybe that your current partner is telling about an ex, they might frame it in a way that's reassuring to you, or
yes.
say it's squarely in the past, where she's reading about this sort of very steamy relationship as it's going on, in this in this voice that the narrative is a little bit supposed to be making, poking fun at the voice that Gabe takes on as a writer. And
It's
so
just,
it's
oh my
that's
gosh.
that experience.
Yeah, it's hysterical. And I was thinking like how exes do play such a part, but most of the time they're like a vision. I mean, she had to face it. She had to face her and then face him out in the public talking about her, and then
Right. And it's also sort of playing with this idea of what's real and what's not. You know, we're all so used to social media now and seeing influencers, and you
right.
really do wonder, like, how much of this is real and how much is not. And in Molly's case, she's seeing Gabe and Talia sort of parading out to the world their quote unquote relationship to promote this book, and wondering, is this all just for the book, as Gabe is trying to tell her it's just for promotion, you know, none of it is real? Or is there more to it? You know, and that sort of paranoia, that wondering, I think in various forms we all can kind of relate to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love how you opened it up with them celebrating their 2-year anniversary. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I love how, because I went back and read it after I was done with it.
Oh, nice.
Reread the first chapter. I always do that. I tell everybody that, but I always
That's
do
fun.
that. So when I did it again this morning, and I was like, oh, see, like, you forget how much bliss they were in. I want to say.
Right, they really go on a journey.
they go on a journey, but I was like, I got to experience them back as Molly and Gabe before the book blew up, and, you know, their lives changed, and, you know, because I thought you did such a great job with that. You know,
oh, thank
like,
you.
I just love, and at the end of the first chapter is what I love. I want to read this, okay? Because to me, that always takes you to the second chapter. So I always look for a really strong ending. And you say, hello, my good girl, he murmurs in his sleep and tucks me snug under his arm where I feel safe and happy. And I was like, and when I read that this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so perfect because I know what happens now, you know?
Right.
So I love that. But the relation, I mean, this is a book of relationships, not just their relationships, but family. You know, you explored a lot of relationships in this book. Is that what you like to, I mean, is that your thing in writing? Do you love doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for a lot of us, our romantic relationship is, you know, the main relationship in our life. And, you know, there's the saying that you don't really know a relationship or a marriage unless you're in it. And yet, you know, you see snippets of everybody else's relationship, and it's natural to be comparing it to your own and what's going on with them, and is what's going on with us okay? Is it normal? And so I wanted some other examples. One of them is Molly's brother, and he has a marriage. And at first, Molly really holds them up as this paragon of a married couple. And in some ways, they really are. And they're, you know, an example, they're older. But even that, she starts to see, oh, there are cracks underneath this seemingly, you know, perfect facade. And she thinks back to her father has died when she's little, and she thinks back to her parents' relationship and sort of tries to piece it together as an adult and thinking about, you know, what can I learn from what happened between them? And then aside from the romantic relationships, you know, I always like to explore friendship in books. And that's a big part of this too, that she has her 2 closest friends. And, you know, the romantic relationship really goes through a lot of roller coaster challenges in this book. And so I wanted to make the friendships kind of her rocks, her really, that she can really turn to these friends. And they're different, and they go through their ups and downs, and they have their, you know, they get on the outs too. But, you know, to highlight the fact that I think it's easy to think, oh, you should get everything from your romantic relationship. And I think for most people, that's not really the case. And sometimes, you know, you do need to turn to other people for what you need. And that's good. That's healthy.
Yes. And I saw that you wrote for magazines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was such a you know, I'm 54. I lived in like my childhood. I actually, when my mom moved from our house growing up, I had like 6 boxes of magazines.
That's great.
She was like, what am I going to do? Yeah, she's like, what should I do with these? I'm like, I don't know. I may need them. And I was like, okay, toss them. But I was such a magazine person. And then I saw that you wrote for like Glamour and Self, and like those were my magazines.
Oh, well, then you should read my first novel, is Pretty in Ink. It's a satire of that world.
I saw that, yeah. And I was like, now it seems like magazines are not a thing of the past because they still exist in a little, but you know, back in the heyday of magazines, like they were everything, weren't they?
Yeah,
like
things have really changed. Yeah, I mean, I grew up loving every time a magazine would come in the mail. You know, it was my most favorite moment. And it's interesting because I started working in magazines in 2005 when I graduated college. And I got to see the sort of end of that. And of course, magazines still exist. I still have friends who work in magazines, but it's not the same. And the 3 magazines that I worked at, Glamour, Self, and Redbook, don't exist anymore.
Which is crazy because I
Yeah.
was wondering whether Glamour. I knew Self and Redbook didn't, and then I'm like, no, maybe
They
Glamour. Maybe
They all exist online, but the print
right? But in
editions
print,
don't exist.
right?
Yeah.
On print,
And so
like,
that's actually what I wrote about primarily in Pretty in Ink, the sort of beginning of the end. And you really, the main character of that book is a magazine. That's sort of a combination of places I worked, and downsizing is going on. And I experienced that several times. You know, there was always layoffs and the stress of that and the competition that comes in, and thinking about, you know, I really explore that, you know, everybody can find this information instantly online. So, you know, what is the value of having a monthly magazine? And I think there is something that's been lost in not having so many print editions. But I understand that, you know, not as many titles could survive in this environment for sure.
Right. And I went from like 17 to Glamour, and I felt like I grew up. You know, like Cosmo and Glamour were the grown-up magazines.
Yeah.
But if you were to say like what I love the most about them wasn't just the articles, but also the ads. I mean, we looked forward to seeing, you know, because in Glamour it was the makeup and the hair and styles, and you know, so it was like
very aspirational.
yeah, so it was like that was our only way of knowing like what was in style or what was going on with makeup was basically these magazines where now, like you said, they can go online and see what everybody's wearing, and you know.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love talking. You know, it's almost like I can tell in your book because you were a writer, and it's like it really comes through because of your style of writing. And when I went, I was like not surprised. I'm like, of course you write for magazines. I can so tell in this. So I just was such a fun book. And are you working like, okay, now this book is out, okay, and you're doing all the publicity and everything, but are you working on another book?
You know, I've started here and there. I haven't gotten very far, but I'm working on a book that takes place in a school. I taught high school English for a few years, and you know, it's just such an interesting setting that has so much going on, and everyone, of course, has experienced school as a student, but experiencing it as a teacher was a whole different point of view that was quite enlightening and very intense. And I felt like, you know, I haven't figured out all the particulars of the story, but it's a setting that I really would like to explore. And I think particularly now, when there's so much pressure on teachers, and I think teachers get a lot of the blame for things that go wrong with kids and particularly teenagers. And I always taught seniors, and I really liked being there for that transitional moment between childhood and adulthood. But there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of hormones having, you know, 35, 18-year-olds in a room. And so that's a world that I'm interested in exploring.
Oh, that would be awesome. I can't wait. Because I love this book. I love the ending, which we don't talk about, but I'll just tell you that I loved it. And, you know, it was hard to put her away. I get attached to characters, and I loved her. I really could feel her through the whole, you know, even though she's younger, it was like my younger me coming out and experiencing that. And so it was great. I'm so happy that I read it. I really am.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Show everybody the cover because I want everybody to see this. I love the colors, like more, you know, I'm a cover person, but were you happy with this? Like,
oh, I love this cover, and I had nothing to do with it. I take no credit. But you know, they sent me the image, the publisher, Skyhorse, and I just thought this is perfect. It's really fun. And it pops, and I like the kind of vintage feel.
Yes, I am a huge Skyhorse publishing fan. Huge. I know a lot of you authors with them, so I love
they're
them.
great.
When I saw that, I was like, oh yes, because I love that. I love supporting their authors because they're such a fun publishing group. But they're very kind to me. So, anyway, I will put all of Lindsey's links. I'm going to put the IndieBound so you can go support your local bookstore. I'll put Amazon in case you want it today because you can just go and get it today. And then I'm going to put all your links listed below, your website. You know, go to our website. I love a good website. And, you know, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me read your book.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you know where to find me for the next one because I'll read it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Have a great day, Lindsey.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.